The night was silent in the queen's palace. The silver towers of crystal stood tall under the light of 3 moons. Guards marched in every corridor, their heavy steps echoing against the walls. Everything seemed calm, but calm was a lie. Inside, the queen's chambers, 2 beds lay empty. The daughters of the fierce alien queen were gone. The alarm rang like thunder. A deep sound shook the walls. Soldiers ran in panic, their voices sharp with fear. The palace was no ordinary place. It was a fortress, guarded by the strongest warriors in the galaxy. No one had ever escaped these walls, yet the daughters had vanished without leaving a trace. The queen entered. Her eyes were like burning stars. Her golden armor glowed as if it carried fire. She looked at the empty beds. Her voice roared through the halls. "Find them, or I will burn every traitor alive." The walls themselves seemed to shiver at her words. Her daughters were not just children. They were heirs to an empire that stretched across planets. Their safety was the safety of the throne. Without them, whispers of rebellion would grow. Enemies would rise, and her power would be questioned. The queen could not allow that. Soldiers searched the rooms. They checked every window, every hidden door, every shadow. Nothing. The beds were warm, meaning the girls had left only minutes ago, yet no one had seen them pass. How could 2 young princesses disappear without a single sound? Rumors started to grow among the servants. Some whispered of magic, some spoke of betrayal. Others accused the humans who worked in the city. The queen's empire had always looked down on humans, calling them weak, dirty, and unworthy of trust. Now suspicion pointed straight at them. The queen ordered her generals to lock the city. "Search every street, every market, every home," she commanded. "If they are not found, I will burn the city to ash." Her fury was not just fear of losing her daughters, it was fear of losing control. Far from the palace, in the outer part of the shining city, a human worker walked alone. He was a simple man, dressed in old clothes, stained from work at the Tau starport. His name was spoken by few, for humans were ignored in this world. He carried no weapon, no status, only the weight of survival. Yet tonight, destiny was about to tie him to the greatest storm in the galaxy. As he walked the quiet streets, patrols rushed past him. Soldiers shouted, carrying crystal spears that glowed in the dark. The human kept his head low. He had learned long ago that humans who drew attention ended up punished, sometimes whipped, sometimes killed. So he kept moving, silent as a shadow. Back in the palace, the queen stood alone in her war chamber. Maps of stars glowed before her. Her fists shook with rage. For years she had ruled with iron power, feared by all. Yet her daughters, her own blood, had chosen to run from her. Why? What had driven them to vanish into the night? Her voice broke the silence. "If they are in this city, I will find them. If they are beyond, I will burn the stars themselves." The city itself began to change. Massive gates closed, cutting off every road. The skies filled with warships. Engines hummed above the towers. No one could leave until the daughters were found. Fear spread through the people. Merchants shut their stalls. Mothers pulled children inside. Even the bravest criminals hid in the alleys. For when the queen searched, no one was safe. And yet, in the middle of this chaos, a secret began to grow. The daughters of the queen had not vanished into the stars. They had not been stolen by assassins, nor had they been taken by rebels. Their path had carried them somewhere unexpected, somewhere no one would ever think to search. The night deepened. The search spread like fire, and every soldier swore they would find the missing heirs. But the truth was hidden, wrapped in shadows. The daughters were close, closer than anyone could imagine. And soon, the fate of a human who had no power, no name, and no place in this world would be changed forever. The vanishing was only the beginning. The galaxy held its breath, for the next dawn would bring secrets that could break empires. The queen's fury spread across the city like fire. Soldiers in black crystal armor stormed through every gate. Their glowing spears lit up the night as they kicked open doors, searched homes, and shouted questions at trembling families. None were safe. For the queen's command was clear: find my daughters or the city will burn. The marketplace, usually alive with voices and colors, had turned into a graveyard of silence. Stalls stood abandoned, fruit and bread left to rot on the stone. Traders had fled, hiding with their families. No laughter, no music, only the sound of boots pounding the ground. At the center of this chaos was the human janitor. He scrubbed the floors of the great starport during the day, sweeping dust from between metal panels. At night he returned to his small home, a room so small it barely held a bed and table. He had always lived quietly, unnoticed, surviving in the shadow of the empire. But tonight, his life was tied to danger he could not yet see. He walked past soldiers who barked orders. Their eyes burned with suspicion. When they saw a human, their gazes hardened. Some spat at the ground, others muttered. The weak ones always caused trouble. For centuries, humans had been treated as less than servants, useful only for work no alien wished to do. Now, with the princesses gone, all eyes turned toward them. Rumors spread faster than fire. Some claimed that human smugglers had stolen the daughters. Others whispered that humans were cursed, able to charm alien children away with their strange voices. A cruel story began to grow, that the princesses were taken as payment for human debts. The more the whispers grew, the more soldiers tightened their search. The janitor returned to his room, locking the door. His body was tired, his hands sore from labor, yet his mind could not rest. Outside, he heard the echo of soldiers dragging neighbors from their homes, the cries of children, the begging voices of parents. No one cared if the humans were innocent or guilty. They were weak, and weakness was always blamed. Inside the palace, the queen stood before her war council. Generals bent their heads as her voice cut through the air. The humans hide something, she declared. I smell their weakness, their lies. Bring me their leaders. Tear apart their homes. I will not rest until my daughters are returned to me. Her words became law. Patrols doubled. Streets filled with armored beasts that sniffed for trails. Windows were shattered as soldiers broke into homes. Torches burned against the night sky. The whole city felt like a cage, and fear was the lock. But while the city bent under the queen's rage, the truth was softer, hidden away. The daughters had not been stolen by force, they had chosen to leave. Their small hearts carried a secret no one dared to speak. They longed for peace, for warmth, for freedom from their mother's endless control, and that longing had led them, far from the palace, into the paths of the most unlikely soul. The janitor sat on his small bed, staring at the flickering lamp. He had nothing, no family, no honor, only the routine of work and the weight of being invisible. Yet tonight the silence of his room felt heavy, as if shadows pressed against his walls. He thought he heard something, a whisper, a faint movement. He shook his head, telling himself it was only rats in the walls. Still, unease crawled across his skin. Outside, soldiers marched past his door. One stopped, listening, his hand pressed against the wood. The janitor held his breath. The sound of boots shifted, then faded away. Relief filled him, but also dread. For deep down, he felt the storm was only beginning. By dawn, the search reached its peak. Entire districts were torn apart. Humans were lined in the streets, questioned, beaten. Some never returned. The queen's threats grew louder. She promised to burn the skies if her daughters were not found. Yet for all their searching, all their cruelty, the soldiers found nothing. And in that nothing, a secret breathed. The daughters were hidden not by soldiers, not by rebels, not by smugglers, but by fate. They had wandered to the last place the queen would ever think to look. They were close, too close, resting in shadows near the human janitor's life. The city trembled under fear. The queen's fury spread like storm clouds. And yet, in the smallest of rooms, destiny waited. Silent breaths, soft footsteps, and a secret that would shake empires. The search had begun. But the answers lay far from the queen's reach. They lay in the arms of the one she despised the most, a human. The night was colder than usual. The human janitor returned to his small room after a long day at the starport. His body ached from carrying heavy tools. His hands were rough with cuts and bruises. He pushed open the wooden door, expecting the same silence, the same loneliness that always welcomed him. But tonight something was different. The lamp on his table flickered strangely, casting long shadows across the room. His ears caught a faint sound, not the scurrying of rats, not the wind against the walls, but something softer. He froze, his breath caught in his throat. Slowly, he stepped inside. On his small bed, two shapes curled together beneath his old blanket. At first he thought his tired eyes were playing tricks, but then the shadows shifted. He saw pale glowing patterns on their skin like threads of silver light dancing in the dark. His heart nearly stopped. It was them, the daughters of the alien queen. The human's legs felt weak. He leaned against the wall, sweat forming on his forehead. His mind screamed at him, telling him to run, to shout, to hand them over. If soldiers discovered them here, he would not only be executed, he would be torn apart in front of the whole city. Yet his body did not move. His eyes stayed locked on the girls. They were so small. Their silver hair spread across the pillow, their breathing soft and gentle. Their arms were wrapped around each other, as if the world itself was too frightening to face alone. And then he saw it. Their tiny hands clutched at his worn shirt, as if in their sleep they had reached for him. The human's chest rose and fell in panic. "No," he whispered to himself. "This cannot be real. This cannot be happening." He took a step closer. His boots creaked on the wooden floor. One of the girls stirred, her eyelids lifted, and her glowing eyes met his. For a heartbeat, time stopped. She did not scream. She did not call for help. Instead, she whispered in a trembling voice, "Safe." The word pierced through him like an arrow. Safe. She thought he was safe. The second girl opened her eyes too. She looked at him with the same glowing gaze. Their faces carried fear but also trust, as if they had chosen him. The human's throat tightened. He wanted to speak, but no words came out. Suddenly, the sound of soldiers echoed outside. Their heavy boots marched down the narrow street. Voices barked orders. "Search every door, every corner." The human's heart raced. He glanced at the window, then at the door. There was no escape. If they came in now, it was over. The girls pressed closer to him. One of them whispered, "Please don't send us back." Her voice cracked, filled with a pain no child should carry. "She will lock us again. She will make us fight. We don't want to go back." Tears slid down her glowing cheeks. The human felt his world tilt. He had never mattered in this empire. He was a shadow, a worker, a man with no power. Yet here, in his broken little room, the most precious beings in the galaxy clung to him as their protector. The weight of it nearly crushed him. The boots outside stopped. Knuckles pounded on the neighbor's door. Screams followed. The human moved quickly. He pulled the blanket over the girls, his hands shaking. "Quiet," he whispered. "Don't make a sound." The girls nodded, their small fingers holding tightly onto his arm. Minutes passed like hours. Finally, the soldiers' voices faded into the distance. The human let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. He sat on the edge of the bed, his mind a storm. His eyes looked at the glowing markings on the girls' arms. They pulsed gently, like light from another world. "Why are you here?" he whispered to them. The older one, though still young, looked into his eyes with a courage that seemed too heavy for her small body. "Because you're not like her," she said softly. "You don't hurt. You don't command. You don't burn." The words struck him deeper than any blade. They had run not only from their mother's palace, but from her cruelty. They had chosen him because he was the only face in the city who carried no hatred. In his eyes, he closed his eyes, pressing a hand against his face. If anyone found out, he was dead. If he tried to return them, they would be caged again. If he hid them, the entire weight of the Queen's fury would fall on him. Every path led to death, and yet, when he looked at their frightened faces, when he heard the word safe, he knew his choice was already made. Daughters of the alien queen had vanished from the galaxy's eyes, but now they had been found. Found in the chest of a human who had nothing. Found in the arms of a man who never sought power, but who would soon be forced to carry it. The discovery was not just the end of the search. It was the beginning of a storm that would tear through the stars, and the human, whether he wished it or not, stood at the very heart of it. The human did not sleep that night. He sat on the edge of his bed while the alien queen's daughters curled against his chest. Their glowing skin lit the room with a soft silver light. Outside, soldiers still marched. Through the streets, shouting orders, kicking doors, dragging neighbors from their homes. Every sound made his heart pound harder. Every step of armored boots felt like it was coming straight for him. He looked down at the two girls. Their breathing was slow, their faces peaceful, but their fingers clutched his shirt as if they feared he might vanish too. He had never held anyone like this. Not since his own childhood on Earth before the wars. Had torn everything apart. For a moment he forgot about death, about fear, about punishment. All he felt was their trust, heavy and fragile in his arms. But when dawn came, reality returned sharper than ever. The Queen's fury was only growing. Posters of the missing daughters now covered the walls of the city, their faces drawn in glowing ink with the warning, "Whoever hides them will be burned alive." His neighbors whispered in terror, and many looked at him with suspicion. Humans were always blamed first. The human paced the small room, his thoughts twisted like knots. If he gave the girls back, he might live a little longer, but the daughters would return to a prison made of gold and pain. If he kept them hidden, the soldiers would find him sooner or later, and his death would be certain. It was madness, no path led to safety. "Why me?" he muttered under his breath. Why did they come here? He remembered the way the eldest had whispered the word, safe. He remembered the tears that glowed. Like silver fire, his chest tightened. He was nobody, a janitor, a shadow. Yet to them he was something more. When the girls woke, they looked at him with tired eyes. The younger one sat up first, her hair falling across her glowing cheeks. "Please," she said softly, "don't send us back." The older one nodded, her voice trembling but steady. "She doesn't love us. She loves power. She loves the throne. She wants us to be like her, but we are not." Their words hit him like thunder. He had seen the Queen only once from far away, on a parade through the city. Her presence was like a storm. Her soldiers worshipped her, and her enemies feared her. Yet her own children ran from her arms. What kind of ruler ruled with fear even inside her own home? The human sat on the floor, his head in his hands, his voice cracked. "If I protect you, they will kill me. If I give you back, they will break you." Silence filled the room. The girls crawled closer. The older one placed her small, glowing hand on his arm. "Then let us stay hidden, just one night more, please." He looked at her, and in her glowing eyes he saw something he had not seen in years. Hope. It was so fragile yet so powerful. He realized he could not crush it, not even to save his own life. Decision settled slowly inside him, not with strength but with quiet acceptance. He could not betray them no matter what it cost. If death came, then death would come. But he would not hand them back to a cage. His chest rose and fell with a deep breath. "All right," he whispered. "You will stay. I will protect you." The girls' faces lit up with relief. They hugged him tightly. Their small bodies trembled, not from fear now, but from the feeling of belonging. He wrapped his arms around them, his decision final. His life was no longer his own. It belonged to them. Outside, soldiers were searching the block again, knocking. Doors one by one. The human hid the twins quickly. He pulled up a loose panel in the floor, a hiding place he had once used for stolen bread when hunger drove him to crime. He whispered to the girls, "Stay quiet, no matter what happens." They nodded, slipping inside the narrow space, their glowing skin dimming as they covered themselves with a blanket of dust and wood. Moments later, fists hammered against his door. His heart nearly stopped. He opened it slowly. 3 soldiers stood before him. Their crystal armor gleamed, and their eyes burned with suspicion. "Have you seen anything?" the leader barked. "Any humans moving in the night? Any strange sounds?" The human shook his head, keeping his voice calm. "No," he said. "I work late. I see nothing. I hear nothing." The soldier's gaze swept across the room. His eyes narrowed. He stepped inside. boots heavy against the floorboards. The human's breath caught. The soldier paused near the bed, staring at the blanket. His hand moved slowly, reaching down. The human's pulse thundered in his ears. If the soldier lifted the blanket, it was over. The janitor's fist tightened, ready to fight, ready to die. Then, a shout came from the street. "We found tracks near the river!" The soldier cursed, turned away, and left. The door slammed. Behind them, the human sagged against the wall, his legs weak. He pulled up the panel. The girls crawled out, tears in their glowing eyes. They clung to him silently. The decision had been made. He was no longer a shadow, no longer just a janitor. He was now their shield, their secret, their only hope. And for the first time in his life, he carried something greater than fear. The Queen's search was tightening, but the daughters of the Empire were hidden in the arms of a human, and the galaxy was shifting with every beat of his heart. The city no longer breathed like it once did. Its streets, once full of markets, voices, and colors, now echoed only with boots and the clash of weapons. Every alley carried soldiers, every rooftop. Hid eyes, the Queen's command was law. Her daughters must be found, and no one was safe until they were. The human janitor moved carefully through the narrow roads, his head low, his hands carrying a basket of broken tools as if nothing in his life had changed. But inside, his heart thundered. For hidden in his small home were the most wanted children in the galaxy, and every patrol that passed brought death one step closer. The soldiers grew harsher. They dragged humans into the streets, lined them up against walls, demanded answers. Some were beaten, others vanished into the dungeons. The Queen's fury was burning the city alive, and the hunt showed no mercy. At night, the human hid the twins in new places, sometimes under broken machines in the workshop he cleaned, sometimes inside barrels filled with old cloth. He risked everything with every hiding spot. His mind raced for tricks, each night different, each day more dangerous. The girls trusted him completely, their glowing eyes watching his every move. They clung to him when the soldiers grew too close, whispering, "Safe." One evening, while he carried scraps to the market, he noticed a soldier watching him. The alien's gaze was sharp, his expression cold. Unlike the others who mocked humans and turned away, this one followed. His boots echoed behind the janitor. The human pretended not to notice, but his steps quickened. Sweat slid down his back. He ducked into the back of the workshop. His hands moved fast, tossing broken wires and scrap metal into the air, creating a loud clatter. The soldier appeared at the door, eyes narrowed. "You," he barked. "What are you hiding?" The human raised his hands, showing nothing but dirt. "Just cleaning, just scraps," he said quietly. His voice was steady, but his chest burned with fear. The soldier walked inside, scanning the shadows. He bent down, picking up a piece of metal, then tossed it aside. His eyes locked on the janitor's face, studying him as if searching for weakness. Finally, he muttered, "If I find you lying, I'll cut you open." Then he left. The human's knees almost gave way. He knew it was only a matter of time before suspicion became truth. That night, the girls huddled in his arms. The younger whispered, "They will find us, won't they?" Her voice shook. The human tightened his embrace. "Not while I still breathe," he answered. His words were quiet but firm. For the first time in his life, he was not just surviving, he was protecting. The Queen's armies spread further beyond the city walls. Torches burned across the plains. Entire villages were searched, rivers combed, mountains scanned by flying beasts, but still, no trace of the daughters. The Queen's anger grew like a storm, and her voice thundered through every hall of her palace. "They are close. I feel them. Find them, or I will tear this world apart." Back in the city, the human began using his knowledge of the streets. Years of living invisible had taught him where soldiers never looked. Old tunnels under the starport, abandoned storage rooms, cracks in the city wall that only a man with nothing would notice. He led the girls through these paths at night, whispering, "Stay low, stay quiet." Their small hands held tightly, Onto his arms, their glowing skin hidden under dirty cloaks. Each escape carried risk. Once, a soldier's torch almost revealed them. Another time, a patrol beast sniffed the air and growled, forcing the human to throw spoiled food into the corner, to distract it. His heart nearly broke with each close call, but he never let go of the girls one evening as they hid inside an old water pipe. The older daughter whispered, "Why do you help us? You will die if they find us." The human looked at her, his face shadowed in the dim light. "Because no one else will," he said. "Because you deserve more than fear." The girl's glowing eyes softened. She pressed her forehead against his chest, silent tears falling, but danger was tightening. The suspicious soldier had not forgotten him. He began asking questions, watching the janitor's steps, speaking to neighbors. The human could feel the net closing. The city was a cage, and the walls were shrinking. The girls trusted him more each day, but he knew the truth. He could not keep them hidden forever. Sooner or later the soldiers would come, and when they did, his choice would be tested in fire. The hunt was not only the Queen's command. It was fate circling closer, and in the heart of that storm stood a man who had nothing but courage, holding the secret that could shatter an empire. The sun bled red across the horizon, casting long shadows over the city. Soldiers filled the streets, like an endless tide, their boots pounding as they searched every corner. The hunt had stretched for days, and still the daughters of the Queen had not been found. The Queen's fury was now sharper than a blade, her orders merciless. Tear the city apart. No stone unturned. The human janitor felt the walls of his world closing. The suspicious soldier who had followed him before was watching closer now. His eyes lingered too long. His questions pressed too sharp. Neighbors had begun whispering as well, and some looked at him with fear, others with hate. For when humans were blamed, the punishment always spread. That evening, the janitor returned. To his small home, his hands trembled as he locked the door. The twins were waiting, their cloaks dusty from hiding, their glowing eyes dim from exhaustion. They ran into his arms, whispering, "You came back." Relief poured through him, but it was thin. He knew their time was running out. Suddenly, a heavy knock rattled the door. The human's heart froze. He pressed the girls behind him, whispering, "Quiet, no matter what happens." The knock came again, harder this time. Then the door burst open, splintering against the wall. The suspicious soldier stepped inside, flanked by two others. His eyes burned as they swept across the room. His voice was low, sharp. "I knew it. I knew you were hiding something." His gaze fell on the corner where the twins crouched, and, for the first time, his lips curved into a cruel smile. The girls gasped, clutching at the human's arm. The soldier drew his blade, the crystal edge humming with deadly light. "The Queen will reward me greatly for this," he sneered, "and you, human, will die screaming." The janitor's legs shook, but he stepped forward, his arms spread wide, shielding the daughters with his body. His voice cracked, but did not. "Break. You'll have to kill me first." The soldier laughed, gladly. He lunged, his blade flashing in the dim light. The human braced for pain, but before the blade struck, the twins cried out together. Their bodies glowed with a fierce, silver light, brighter than fire, brighter than stars. The soldier staggered, covering his eyes. The room filled with energy, sharp and wild. The girls stepped forward, their small hands glowing. Their voices rang clear. "He is our protector." The soldiers froze. Fear flickered across their faces. For the daughters of the Queen carried not only her blood but her power. To strike them down was unthinkable. To strike the man they claimed as protector was worse. It would be seen as defying the heirs themselves. The suspicious soldier snarled, but doubt gnawed at him. His blade trembled in his grip. "You cannot protect them forever," he spat. "The Queen will come, and she will crush you." He retreated slowly, his eyes still filled with hate. Then he turned and stormed out, his men following. The human collapsed to his knees, gasping for breath. The twins rushed to him, their glowing hands clutching his. "Arms, are you hurt?" the younger one whispered. He shook his head, though his chest still burned with fear. No, I'm fine. I'm fine. He looked at them, their small faces fierce despite their tears. But now everything has changed. Outside, the sound of horns cut through the night. The call was unlike any before. It was the Queen's summons. The soldiers were gathering. The city trembled under the weight of her arrival. The human knew the soldier would report what he had seen, and the Queen herself would come. The twins clung to him, their voices shaking. She will take us back, won't she? The human swallowed hard. His heart screamed with fear, but his voice was steady. Not if I stand in the way. The next morning, the skies burned gold as the Queen's warship descended. Its shadow covered the city. The air grew heavy, and every soul bowed their head in fear. The Queen stepped onto the ground, her armor shining, her eyes like fire. Her voice thundered, "Bring me my daughters." The soldiers bowed, the suspicious one stepping forward. "My Queen," he said, with pride, "I have found them. They hide with the human." The Queen's gaze darkened. Her voice shook the stones. "Then the human will die, and they will learn never to betray me again." But inside a small room, the twins held their protector tighter. Their power still glowed faintly, and their hearts beat fast with fear and courage. The human looked at them, his voice soft but firm. "If she comes, we face her together." The confrontation had come, and it would decide more than lives. It would decide whether fear ruled forever, or if hope could stand against an empire. The Queen's warship loomed over the city like a shadow from another world. Its engines roared, shaking walls and hearts alike. Soldiers lined the streets in black armor, their crystal spears glowing. The people bowed, trembling, for the Queen's presence was a storm that none could escape. At the center of the square, the human janitor stood with the two daughters clinging to his sides. His heart pounded like a drum, yet his feet did not move. The twins held him tightly, their glowing eyes filled with fear. They had chosen him, and now they would face the fury of their mother together. The Queen descended from her ship. Her golden armor blazed under the suns. Her eyes, sharp and burning, swept across the crowd until they locked onto her daughters. For a moment, silence fell, heavy and unbroken. Then her voice rang out like thunder. "My children." The twins flinched, pressing closer to the human. Their small voices trembled as they whispered, "Don't let her take us." The human tightened his grip on their shoulders. His body shook, but his voice did not. "They don't want to go back," he said, his words echoing across the square. Gasps rippled through the soldiers. Never before had a human dared speak against the Queen. Her eyes blazed. "You dare stand between me and my blood," she roared. Her steps shook the ground as she marched forward. The soldiers raised their spears, but none dared move without her command. The human felt the weight of death pressing down on him, but he did not step aside. "They are not your trophies," he shouted. "They are children. They need peace, not chains." His words cut through the silence. His voice carried more courage than he thought he had. The Queen stopped only steps away. Her towering form shadowed him, her hand gripped the hilt of her blade. Her voice was cold and sharp. "Do you know who I am, human?" The janitor's chest rose with a deep breath. "I know you are feared. I know you are strong, but I also know your daughters ran from you." The words struck. Like fire, murmurs spread through the soldiers. The Queen's eyes narrowed, rage burning in her veins. She lifted her blade high, ready to strike. The twins cried out, their glowing power flaring bright. "No!" they screamed. "He is ours!" Their voices shook the air. Their small bodies glowed with silver light, surrounding the human like a shield. The Queen froze. Her blade trembled. For the first time in years, her daughters defied her not with fear but with love. They clung to the human, their faces filled with a peace she had never seen in them before. Their power pulsed, and every soldier felt it. No one dared breathe. The Queen's gaze flickered between the human and her daughters. For a heartbeat, she saw the truth. Her children had smiled more in this human's arms than they ever had in her golden palace. Her heart twisted with something she did not understand, something she had buried long ago. Slowly, she lowered her blade. Her voice was low, almost broken. You gave them what I could not. The human's chest heaved, sweat dripping down his face. He stood firm, even as her eyes bore into his soul. I only gave them kindness, he whispered. The queen turned to her daughters, her fierce mask cracked for a moment. Do you choose him? She asked. Her voice was sharp but unsteady. The twins nodded without hesitation. Their glowing hands held the human tighter. We choose him, they said together. The square fell into silence again. Every soldier watched, waiting. The queen's choice would decide the fate of all. She stepped closer, her eyes burning into the human. For a moment he thought she would kill him anyway, but then, to everyone's shock, she lowered her blade completely. Her voice cut through the silence. Very well, you saved them from me. She leaned closer, her words a whisper filled with power. Now you belong to me too. The human's heart stopped. Her words were not mercy. They were chains of a different kind. She would not kill him. She would keep him. For if her daughters saw him as their protector, then she would bind him to her throne. The soldiers bowed, some in confusion, others in fear. The people trembled. The queen turned away, her cloak sweeping the ground like fire. Her daughters remained with the human, their small faces pressed against his chest, relief and fear mixed in their glowing eyes. The human looked down at them, his heart heavy. He had saved them, but at what cost? He was now bound to the very ruler he had defied. The queen had spared his life, but his freedom was gone. And yet, as the twins clung to him, whispering, safe once more, he knew the truth. He would endure chains, threats, even death itself, as long as they were not broken. The queen's choice had spared him, but it had also sealed a new fate. A human, once invisible and unwanted, now stood at the center of an empire's storm. The galaxy would never be the same.